Welcome to Season 6, Episode 3 of the Nordic Art Agency Podcast, a podcast connecting artists and art influencers from around the globe. I'm your host, Juliet, a British expat, art historian and gallerist based in Sweden. I created this podcast to share conversations with artists and art influencers whose artwork or insights inspire me personally. So I've been making this podcast since 2020, and it's always been audio. But today is the very first episode which we're creating on video. And for this inaugural episode, I have a very special guest, somebody who is very inspiring and influential. His work as a creative director, as an artist and an author is also coupled with his passion as an activist for mental health. His personal journey through creativity and through his own creation of art has supported his own journey with mental health, which has driven him to create the campaign Ups and Downs, which in Swedish is upp och ner. And this is really to heighten the conversation and acceptance around mental health, and especially his personal experience of bipolar disorder. He's also the author of Ups and Downs, a survivor's guide to bipolar, which he co-authored with Dr. Kerstin Skugberg, her name is. I'm not going to give the Swedish title for the book, but it's written in Swedish. But very much his journey as an advocate for mental health and also as an artist has led him to establishing his creative practice, and that's what I really like to discuss with him today, and how this has heightened and strengthened the conversation around bipolar and mental health. So I'm delighted to welcome Henrik Wahlström to the Nordic Art Agency Podcast and to my gallery.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I think I'd like to start our conversation today really with your initial relationship with art. I know that you started in your childhood to paint, and you're a self-taught artist. But really, Henrik, how has art, through your childhood and growing up with some struggles with mental health and obviously bipolar disorder, how has that evolved as a creative person?
That's a huge question. I've always been drawing and painting, and I guess, most kids do. But I had a very close relationship to drawing emotions or getting emotions out at a very early age. And I really remember if I had been through even a happy emotional thing, I've seen a movie at the cinema or something, I was desperate to get home so I can paint the movie, or I can draw the movie, and I wanted to sit down and draw everything. And I see now today with my son, if he's been watching a show, he wants to run around in the yard and playing that show or that movie. But I wanted to sit down by myself and paint. And I also had a memory that came back to me not too long ago when I found some drawings. There were horrible drawings, not that they were bad, they were depicting horrible scenes. And I then remembered that I had locked myself into this wardrobe or cupboard or something to get out some horrible feelings. And I've been drawing these pictures that I thought that I'd thrown away, but I hadn't. So that was a really scary thing to find, like a 5-year-old's drawing of decapitated humans and stuff. It was really bad. But it made me feel like, okay, I'm never gonna stop my own kids from drawing horrible things because I obviously needed it. But then I was just drawing, and then my grandfather, who was a good painter, he taught me the basics of oil painting when I was 8, and then I just started painting instead of drawing, and I did all through my childhood and teens, and then sometime around when I graduated at 20 years old or something, then my life kind of fell apart, and it was really bad, and my bipolar disorder really bloomed. How do you say it? I got into a bad case of alcoholism and went to rehab, and I had no intention of painting. I had no room for it in my life. I didn't think about it at all. And also, since I was depressed a lot of the time, I just felt like no one is going to I mean, no one's going to appreciate it. It's just going to be terrible. It's going to be just full of mistakes, and it's pretentious. It's everything bad you can think about your art. So I didn't draw. I didn't draw at all for almost 20 years. And then I took it up again. And because I think I knew that I could paint, if I had an idea in my mind of what I wanted to paint, I could get pretty close with brushes and paint, but I didn't see a point of it. I didn't have an audience. I didn't have no one saw my paintings during my teens. I just made them for myself, and they're in the attic or thrown away. But now, a few years ago, I've got this big social media accounts. It's about 250,000 subscribers. And then I showed some old painting, and I got this really great response. And I saw that, okay, now I have the audience. And then I just started painting again, and it was wonderful. And I could just paint everything that I've kind of built up during the years. And when it comes to mental health and bipolar disorder and art, it's been kind of an outlet many times, but it's also, when I've been depressed, I don't have the energy to draw, and I don't see the point. But when I'm out of that episode, when I'm back on track, or when I'm even sped up, because that's the unique thing with bipolar disorder. That's manic depressive illness is the old term for it. That I don't only have the depressions, I have the opposite of depressions as well, the mania, where I have all this energy and creativity and positive thoughts that make me actually go ahead and do these projects and stuff. So it's when I get out of my depression, then I can paint all these. Sometimes I paint scenes that are depictions of depression, but I do it when I'm not depressed.
So is it a conscious decision to then utilize that creative practice? I know that you write as well, and that you're creative in many aspects of your life. But do you see, when you have had an episode and you are out of the depression, do you then feel as though it's a conscious connection that you need to then create on a canvas or with a pencil? Or is it something that is a kind of spontaneous reaction? Or are you consciously saying, now I need to paint, now I need to be creative?
Usually it's an image that appears in my mind that I feel like this is a way to depict what I've been through, or how I view something. It's usually the creative process is pretty. I feel like I'm done in my head before I put up the canvas. I never sit down and say, now I'm going to paint for 3 hours. I wonder what it's going to be. That never happens. I know that I want to paint this painting of a stormy ocean with a boat in it. Okay, then I think about it even more, and then I get how I want it to be with the proportions and everything, and then I put up the canvas and I start painting, and then it's really, really fast because I know exactly how I want it, and that also makes. I mean, sometimes I get it's a surprise. I do a mistake, and I see that's not a mistake at all. That's great. I want to keep that. But usually, I feel like either I'm successful or not, just depending on if I manage to depict the image in my mind accurately or not. And if I'm not succeeding, then I'll take a new canvas or just paint over it. And some of my paintings have several layers of the same image on top of each other, because I just start over.
And in some ways, that's very different from a creative practice perspective, because many artists are set about with a series in mind or a theme in mind, and then that would be the construct around which they will develop a series of a body of work. But for you, it sounds as though it's intuitive. You will have something that you decide, having been through this period or episode, that you then need to just express. And that can be a boat, or it can be whatever. So in some ways, you're kind of skipping over that conscious decision for compositional thought and process.
Maybe. I am all emotion. I don't have this. I have no education whatsoever when it comes to art. Not practical nor theoretical. I don't know anything about art, and that makes me sometimes. I guess I should feel like an imposter. Just I don't have. I don't deserve to be here, you know. But since I'm open about it, that I just draw whatever I think I want to, or I paint whatever I want, and I just go with the flow and the emotion. Then I'm open with it, and then I'm not so afraid. But so I don't know how this creative process should be. I've never heard anyone talk about it. I've never read a book about art. I just do. I paint what is in my mind every time, and I've done so all through since I was 8. So the last 30 plus years have been expressing stuff just pure heart, you know.
And the fact that people actively buy your artwork and they connect with it, I think that to me shares the emotional reaction that they have to your work, and also what you are placing on the canvas through the compositions and through the themes, because I think it sounds as though it's a very human dialogue. And ultimately I think that's what people want to have when they look at art. They want to have that emotional connection. They want to be swept up in a response that feels organic and not forced and not falsified. And I think from just meeting you now, I understand why that would be essential to your creative process, even if you don't feel you have one. The practice is there.
I guess I have one. I mean, of course, I have a creative process. I just don't know how to talk about it because I've never read about it. I don't think it's not... the most important thing for me is not that people buy my art. I mean, I make my living off other stuff as well. I'm not dependent on people buying the art. And also, I think if people are just buying the art right off the bat, I would start thinking that they only buy it because I'm a famous person in Sweden. I'm an influencer or a famous face. So they want to have this famous people's art. And then I would think that, okay, maybe it's just crap, but I'm famous enough to sell it anyway. But since people are getting back to me, every day I get these long messages on social media from people who are interpreting my works and thinking about them and talking about things that I have painted in ways that I see that they actually understand what I was trying to portray, or they are seeing beyond that famous guy painting something. They see that this is actually art, and that makes me believe in it as well.
So as a creative, you also have taken your personal experiences with bipolar disorder. You've created this incredible campaign, Ups and Downs, which has a tangible visual logo, which I love. Can you talk a little bit about how that came to you and what you think that means to people?
Yeah. That was when I chose to come out with my diagnosis with my bipolar disorder, telling everyone that I was bipolar. Because when I did that was in 2021, so it's just a few years to go. Before that, I had been keeping it a secret for 12 years. When I got my diagnosis, I felt like this is like a death penalty, or this is for life. Since this is a chronic disease, I'm not getting rid of it. I had to try to hide it, and I did. And it was really eating me up. So after 12 years, I decided that I don't want to stay silent anymore. I want to try to battle this stigma and prejudice associated with mental health issues, to make it easier for people coming after me as well to go ahead and speak up. And when I talked about this, it landed in a very good place. I was met with lots of love and understanding, and that made me think about how come I didn't speak up sooner? Why did I wait for 12 years? Because when I was met with love and understanding, it was such a weight off my chest. And it struck me pretty fast that the reason why I've been silent for so many years, why it's so difficult for people to speak out about mental health issues, is because it's a kind of coming out process. It's like coming out with a sexual orientation or a gender identity or something. In that it's something very personal. It's a very private thing that I've kept to myself since I know how much prejudice is out there, and I don't know who has these prejudices. So I don't know until I say those words, and once I do, I can't take them back. No. But for people coming out with the sexual orientation, there is this wonderful tool that is the pride symbol. We forget how smart that is. It's not just a flag, just waving for the sake of it. It's a symbol that shows people where they have allies, without them having to bring up the question first. They don't have to bring up their sexual orientation. They can stay silent and still see that, well, that my boss at work who has this pride mug, he might be someone I can talk to if I want to. Or my colleague with a pride pin. She's someone I can be open with if I want to. And also showing safe spaces, like this coffee shop with the pride flag. That's okay. I can be there with my boyfriend, we can hold hands, and that won't be a deal. And I thought that this is what I would have needed. If there was a pride symbol for bipolar disorder, then I might have spoken up much sooner. So then I made this. I have it as a tattoo. It's this little heart symbol drawn by a 4-year-old. That's why it's so jagged, and the small smiley that is happy or sad at the same time. That's called the Schrodinger's smiley, or Schrodinger's emoticon. And I created this symbol, and then I went out I went live on Instagram. I put up a web shop at uppochner.nu, and then with lots of merchandise of different kinds. And then I did this live show that when I said that I understand that this might be, this could be such a flop, and it could be so cringy in a few days when this just flops, but I have to try. So let's just make this up. Let's say that this symbol is called Ups and Downs, and it's meant to show that the bearer of the symbol has a open and accepting attitude towards mental health issues and different diagnoses. That if you're going around staying silent and you see this little pin or this little badge or something with the symbol on, then you know that person is someone you don't have to wear a mask in front of. You can actually answer how you're feeling. When they ask you how you're doing, they want to know how you're doing. It's not just being polite. And then all money that is generated from this campaign is donated to Mind, the association that runs the Swedish suicide hotline. And it just exploded from there. That was 3 years ago, I think. And yesterday I got the 341st tattoo sent to me. And that's only people who have sent pictures to me who are wearing this. And it's showing up. It's been worn in the government in Sweden and in the European Parliament, and it's showing up around the world, and it's generated lots and lots of money for this cause. But first and foremost, I get all these witnesses. People are getting in touch with me to tell me about how this symbol has opened up discussions in workplaces and made people dare to tell their friends or family or bosses or colleagues about how they feel since they saw this symbol.
And the stigma, I think, which is going to attach to mental health, possibly more my generation. I think in Sweden it's much, I know for my children in their schools, ADHD and other mental health conditions, they are sort of managed in a really great way in that it is accepted. But I agree with you. I think in terms of adults or perhaps slightly older teenagers living in the communities, they don't necessarily feel as though they can actually be open about it. And to have an advocate that's so relatable as you are, I think not coming with a professor's mindset or not a formal, you seem to be someone who's highly relatable. How does the art then, if you're going to be talking to young people or sharing your personal experiences, is that something that you encourage bipolar sufferers to share, to sort of join in with, or?
I absolutely encourage people with mental health problems to try to express themselves through art or through words. It could be in writing as well, but just get it out there, get it on paper, get it on canvas in some way. You don't have to show it to anyone. But that is a way to express. And also, if you're having problems with a lot of anxiety, you might have problems with self-harm or very aggressive thoughts, it could be a great way to get it out. And I said, just paint these awful pictures. You can draw awful, horrible scenes and then just throw it away if you want to. But you just get it out. And that's what I did through lots and lots of years. And I think that was very, very helpful. I know it was, but I don't know what would have happened if I didn't. If I didn't paint those things, should I have been breaking plates in the kitchen? I mean, it would have been something else. But even in painting and art, it got pretty dark for me at times. I remember a really dark period where I just put paint and canvases and lots of hard liquor in the car and went out into a summer house thing and just locked myself in for days. And that was, it wasn't a productive environment at all. It was really, really bad. But I don't know if I wouldn't have brought those colors and canvases. That would have been even worse. What would I have done then?
So it's quite experimental when you're approaching creating. So do you have has that been a method that it has been, I want to work with acrylic or I want to work with sketching? Or how have you sort of evolved that sense of where you feel your artwork is best expressed, in which material and medium?
So I've been in kind of many different aesthetic or creative fields. I've been doing music as well and releasing music, and I've been in TV business a lot, and I've also been writing scripts and stuff. But pictures have always been the easiest for me. That's the way an idea pops into my head. It's a visual thing. And then as I said, I started with oils, but I found that acrylics fit me better because I don't have the patience to wait for it to dry. So I just that would halt the process. When I know that I have to wait for 2 days before I can keep going at this, I might not even get back to it. I might just think that I'll put it away. So acrylics have been the best for me, but then again, that might be sometimes that it dries too fast. But I've found some kinds of acrylics that I really like there's somewhere in between that gives me a few hours of drying time, but not days. So acrylics I really like, but I've never been a snob when it comes to materials. I think that the finished product is the whole deal, the whole thing.
And I've learned with the gallery that I have multidisciplinary artists here. So we have fiber artists and resin artists and artists that just work with acrylics and artists that just work with very specific watercolor techniques. And it's interesting whenever I have conversations with them because they all have a journey to get to where they find their medium, where they find as though they can express themselves most spontaneously, and it feels most organic. Yeah. I'm actually going to be exhibiting a series of your artwork, which is very exciting. We have, I think it's 10 days booked from the 23rd of April to the 3rd of May. It'd be wonderful to hear a little bit about the selection that you've made and what your followers and the visitors to the gallery can expect to see.
It will be, I think, well, it's not 100% set yet because I usually bring a few more than I've anticipated just to if I get a new idea, but it will be like 3 different parts. One that I've been doing a lot of droplets and rain and diffused light through water and stuff. That will be one part, like the droplets, and then and this is something that I don't really know why I'm doing, but I've been painting a lot of it's children in water, looking away or having their faces covered in different ways. And that's something that images that have popped into my head. I want to do it, but I guess some Freudian psychologists would really dig deep into that. But I've just made them, and I like them. So that will be one part as well, and a third part with. We'll see. Those two are really set, but the third one might be a mix. It's a bit of a kill your darlings process right now, because everything won't fit, obviously.
No, it sounds like the selection of artwork is a bit like the spontaneous way in which you create.
Absolutely. And because these are all new pieces. I think all of them, or almost all of them, are painted in 2025. Right. So it's really new. So people coming to see this will not have seen these pictures before, except online. But I haven't painted them like 5 pieces of droplets and then 5 kids in water. It's been just all over, depending on what I felt like drawing or the painting.
And that balance you talk about between creativity, so writing and music and art, when you're talking about mental health to young people, or you're trying to describe how you feel creativity supports your emotional healing, do you offer them, I mean, if I was going to be taking something away from this conversation, what would be the way in which you would sort of crystallize the way in which creativity could support a young person, or anybody really dealing with bipolar disorder or mental health pain?
Yeah, as I said, it can be a very good and creative outlet, a positive outlet for emotions. You might get out some emotions that you don't know what to do with otherwise, or that might get destructive in some way. And I think it would be very good for people to get over that. Well, lots and lots of people are writing to me that I wish I could, but I don't have the talent. I don't know how to. Yeah. But sure you do. I mean, just start doing it. You don't have to think about an audience. You can throw them away. You can put them in the attic. You can do whatever you want, but don't pay for another person. You should pay for yourself, right? But try it, because I think it might help you. I am giving a lecture or a talk here at Hansa on the 3rd about the connection between creativity and mental health issues. The connection between creativity and mental health issues have been discussed for centuries, or even longer. I think 400 BC, someone talked about the insane geniuses and stuff. But now it's finally been proven by a team of scientists at Karolinska Institutet here in Sweden, who made a huge study with over 1 million people in it. And it's proven the connection between bipolar disorder and schizophrenia, and how we living with these conditions and our closest relatives are highly overrepresented in all creative lines of work, with the artists and authors and stuff, also scientists. And I'm talking about that, and I mean, I am always trying to find positive and optimistic ways to look at this. Since I'm not getting rid of this disease, I try to find ways to look at it as some part of it is a gift. I'm absolutely sure that I wouldn't be where I am today with my creative stuff and my line of work if it wasn't for this disease. Still, I would like to get rid of it. But since I can't, I can at least shine a light on those bright parts.
And I think that message actually, that it can enhance your life as opposed to just being negative, I think is particularly inspiring for young people. I think a lot of young people who, I've raised 3 children, and even if none of them have any mental health diagnosis, there are moments in their childhood where you can see that issues occur, and if they have tools like creativity, and I'm obviously from quite a creative background, so I've always employed the idea of having Play-Doh or colouring pencils or Lego or whatever it might be, so they can sit down and be quiet, be still, allow that moment to pass, be contemplative, because it's hard to get a child to meditate
Yeah.
or to really think in terms of, giving themselves the opportunity to be creative. So I think the practice, in a way, that you've experienced through your artistry and your creativity is such a powerful message to give young people. If there was one thing that you were going to suggest how you begin that, and I kind of feel from you, it's the idea that failure is fine.
Yes,
Perfection is not the goal here.
No.
No.
Exactly, yeah. Well, I am also trying to, the message that I am really trying to spread with my work as also when I'm out giving lectures about these things, it's that you can have a good life with a disorder such as mine or with recurring depressions or whatever. You can have a good life with those mental health issues. With proper medications and a structured life, you can find your balance and keep your balance. And I think encouraging young people and also children to express themselves in a creative way. That can also be just trying to make mental images of what you're trying to say, using when speaking, trying to find metaphors for stuff. That is also a kind of creative work. We're trying to put into words feelings that are very hard to describe, and sometimes also you get the feeling that you're not supposed to talk about them. Encouraging children and young people to be creative and to embrace that, and trying to find creative ways to express yourselves in your speaking or painting or music or anything. That can really be a gift to them. It can give them ways to talk to you as the adult about how they're feeling. Maybe in ways that they can't express in words, or they don't dare to express in words. But when you see those paintings, you can see that, okay, this is something he's going through, and I have to approach that in some way.
And I think that articulation of emotions is difficult even as adults.
Yeah,
so as
sure.
children, it's even more challenging. But I think what I feel from you, which is really significant, is reducing the level of shame around mental health, and then allowing people and children to see how it can embody something so positive as a creative response. I feel so honoured to have had this conversation. I'm really looking forward to seeing your artwork in the gallery, and I'm going to be putting, hopefully, images of the artwork, and also you've got some incredible limited edition prints, and so you have merchandise around the campaign and the book. So all of that information and resources, Henrik's, on your website, I imagine.
Yep.
So I'm going to put in the show notes links to Henrik's website, Instagram, and also details about this talk that he's going to be hosting at Hansa, which is taking place on the 3rd of May. The exhibition here at the Nordic Art Agency opens on the 23rd of April. I'll also put a link to that in the show notes. You're very welcome to come to the Nordic Art Agency. I think you will be here at some of the dates, and definitely for the finissage, which is May the 3rd. And I really hope you enjoyed this conversation. I'm really happy that it was you who was our first YouTube podcast host. It's a little shaky from me on this side, but I think it's such a special and incredible journey that you've been on. And I think your message is really poignant. And as somebody that spends her life talking to professional artists, it's really nice to meet someone who has become an artist through a completely different path, and I'm very grateful, so thank you for joining me.
Thank you very much.
Good. I hope you enjoyed this conversation, and please follow me on YouTube, the Nordic Art Agency YouTube channel, and subscribe to the channel. We're going to be creating a lot more content, artist studio tours, gallery moments, and hopefully more of these podcast conversations. Bye-bye.
Bye. If you who are watching this, if you're struggling with some kind of mental health issues, do speak up. Tell someone. It can't be anyone, a doctor or a friend or anyone. Just don't stay silent, because that is really dangerous. And I wish I had spoken up much sooner.